Welcome to the Playing Books podcast. Today, we're really embarking on a journey back in time, delving into a profound and, let's be honest, often overlooked chapter of American history.
Absolutely.
Close your eyes for just a moment if you can, and truly try to envision the American frontier.
hmm
Maybe you see those dense, ancient forests, stretching for miles, sunlight just dappling through.
Yeah.
Or perhaps it's the vast, seemingly endless plains under that huge sky.
Yeah, the big sky country image.
Exactly. Punctuated by maybe a lone pioneer silhouette.
hmm
Or it could be those imposing, jagged mountains, their peaks, cutting this really formidable horizon.
Powerful images.
Right. But when we conjure these images, our minds, well, they often default to one archetype, don't they? The rugged man, axe over his shoulder, rifle in hand, carving out a new
Like
world.
that classic image, yeah.
But what our source material for this podcast, the truly insightful work Women as Pioneers, makes abundantly clear is, well, a far richer, much more complex reality.
It really does shift the focus.
Women weren't just, accompanying these men. They were, in every conceivable way, indispensable forces.
Yeah.
Often the true heroes, actually in their own right, facing dangers and difficulties that are almost unimaginable to us today.
It's such a critical reframing, isn't it? What's so compelling about this particular source is how it just refuses to treat women as mere footnotes or supporting characters.
Exactly.
It truly lets us, you, the listeners, follow woman in her wanderings, stand right beside her in the forest or inside that rough cabin, marking in really vivid detail the 1,000 trials and perils she endured.
It feels much more immediate.
It does. And this perspective, it fundamentally reshapes our understanding of the true pioneer experience. It elevates the woman's role from just a supporting character to a central protagonist, really a foundational figure.
Yeah.
So this podcast, it isn't about vague generalities or those kind of romanticized notions of frontier life that we sometimes get.
No, not at all.
It's about uncovering the surprising facts, the untold stories that give us a profound, nuanced understanding of what it truly meant for women to be pioneers in early America. We're here to gain a deep analytical appreciation for their strength, their resilience, and their sheer ingenuity. The inseparable companion, women on the frontier journey.
And when we talk about pioneers, it's easy to think of maybe one specific moment in time, like the wagon trains heading west in the 19th century,
So
right?
it's the common picture.
But our sources really highlight that this is a much longer, much grander saga. This westward movement, it was a continuous exodus, a relentless march that started almost immediately after the first Europeans even set foot on these shores.
Right from the beginning.
Yeah, the material emphasizes that from the very earliest sparse European settlements through that continuous push from the sea and the great rivers, woman was ever present to guard the progress of settlement.
Ever present to guard. That's a powerful phrase.
Isn't it? It's a remarkable insight, suggesting that the very fabric of American expansion was woven with their presence from the absolute beginning. This wasn't just some random, unguided expansion, was it?
No, not at all. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it becomes really clear that this westward movement was far more than just the blind motions of nature, as the source puts it.
Mm.
It was a force that was physical, yes, absolutely, but also profoundly moral and intellectual. The text points out that women, in particular, served as the cohesive power which cements society together.
The glue.
Exactly, the glue. And what's truly fascinating is the observation that this power was strongest when outward pressure is greatest.
Wow.
Think about that for a second. When everything external, the harsh environment, the dangers, the isolation was trying to pull these new communities apart, the women were the essential glue holding it all together. What does that tell us about the foundational resilience of these early settlements?
That's such a powerful metaphor, the glue. And the very first steps in this grand movement really underscore that truth, right from the foundational myths of America.
Like the Mayflower.
Exactly. We often hear about the Pilgrims and the intrepid men of the Mayflower, but how often do we truly consider the Mayflower mothers and daughters?
Not often enough.
The source explicitly names figures like Mrs. Rose Standish, Mrs. Susanna White, Priscilla Mullins, and Elizabeth Carver, among others. These women, alongside their families, endured that brutal winter's voyage across the treacherous Atlantic.
Unimaginable conditions on that ship.
The desolate landing on a bleak, unforgiving New England coast, and the immense back-breaking toil of building those first 10 small houses.
Just 10 houses for everyone.
Imagine constructing a shelter in the dead of winter with primitive tools, maybe using oiled paper for windows just to ward off the biting wind.
It's hard to even picture.
The suffering of that first winter and spring was just immense. It was a period marked by relentless cold, howling winds, fierce storms, gnawing famine, and rampant pestilence. And the source tells us plainly, wherein woman bore her whole share.
Her whole share, not just part of it.
She wasn't an observer. She was a full participant in every single struggle.
And their courage, their resilience on that first pivotal journey really set an indelible precedent, didn't it? For generations of women to come. They were, in essence, the original archetype of women on our American frontier.
Yeah.
And their self-denial, their unwavering piety, it formed this deep, enduring spring of energy that fueled great and noble actions later on. It's a reminder that the very earliest foundational moments of what would become a nation were just inextricably linked to women's endurance.
So once they were past those first settlements and the idea of pushing further inland really took root, the journey itself westward became a whole other beast entirely.
Right.
When we imagine early immigration to the West today, with their comfortable cars and highways.
Yeah, we just hop in the car.
It's almost impossible to truly conceive the tediousness, hardships, and duration these pioneers faced. The source starkly contrasts it with our modern conveyances, likening it to the staggering difference between a train speeding along and an ox train lumbering along at, maybe 15 miles a day.
15 miles a day, if they were lucky.
They literally had to hew their way through the wilderness. This wasn't a road. It was a constant, arduous struggle. Cutting down bushes to clear a path, prying wagons out of treacherous bog holes,
Building makeshift bridges.
over raging streams or pulling heavy rafts across them. This wasn't a road trip. It was a grueling, constant battle against raw, untamed nature every single mile.
And this raises a crucial point about the unique emotional and psychological toll this placed specifically on women.
Oh, absolutely.
The source highlights the immense burden of breaking up her Eastern home and severing those strong local associations and attachments. For women, the act of making a home imbued it with such profound love, care, a deep sense of belonging.
It's everything.
Leaving it behind, perhaps forever, for an utterly uncertain future wasn't just a physical move. It was a deep personal sacrifice of the heart.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the physical discomfort of the journey. It was the psychological weight of abandoning everything known, every familiar comfort, for an unknown and, frankly, often terrifying frontier. How do you think that profound emotional uprooting shaped their character, their resolve?
That emotional weight.
Huh.
Wow. I imagine it was almost as heavy as the wagons they pulled. And sometimes that uncertainty became a terrifying, immediate reality, plunging them into circumstances that, they truly test the limits of human endurance.
Like Mrs. Jameson.
Exactly. This brings us to the wonderful story of Mrs. Jameson. Here's where the stories they take your breath away. She was a woman accustomed to luxury, reared in New York City, a life of comfort, social grace.
A world away from the frontier.
Completely. Yet she forsook all of it for love, following her husband, Edward Jameson, a brave soldier deep into the wilderness. After they settled, established a rudimentary home, an unimaginable tragedy struck. Her husband mysteriously disappeared,
Just vanished.
leaving her utterly alone in the vast and different wilderness with only her small child.
Her ordeal truly exemplifies that blend of raw courage and ingenious resourcefulness that defined so many pioneer women.
Definitely.
Faced with absolute solitude, which is a threat far more insidious maybe than immediate danger, she drew upon what little knowledge of farming and woodcraft she had acquired in those first 2 years of her married life.
She had to learn fast.
The woods, yeah, they were dangerous, but they also teemed with game. And she ingeniously sought sustenance, setting snares, learning to fish, living off the land. She even constructed a frail, rudimentary log cabin for basic shelter.
Just incredible adaptation.
It was an immediate, visceral struggle for survival, a complete reversal of her accustomed life.
But the true test of her extraordinary presence of mind, as the source calls it, came when she encountered a rattlesnake.
Oh, I remember this part. Chilling.
Imagine this. A massive, hideous reptile. Its venomous fangs a clear and present danger, appearing while her child sat motionless, mesmerized by its deadly gaze.
Terrifying.
Mrs. Jameson, with this instinctive rush of maternal protectiveness, she seized a stick, but it was brittle. It did little more than momentarily provoke the creature. The snake then turned its keen and beautiful but malignant eyes on her, its witchery rooting her to the ground with fear.
Paralyzed by fear.
For a fleeting, agonizing moment, she was paralyzed, crying out to God for preservation, believing her end was near. But then, her child, perhaps sensing its mother's distress, finally broke free from the snake's macabre charm and crept to her side.
That broke the spell.
It was in that instant, with her child's vulnerable presence, that Mrs. Jameson's maternal instincts just completely eclipsed her terror. She describes this horrifying embrace with the snake, fighting for her life while shielding her child. With immense, almost superhuman effort, she managed to free one hand, grab her hunting knife from its sheath, and with a fervent prayer on her lips, she cut its head from its body.
Wow, just wow. An image of primal battle, pure, untamed maternal ferocity.
And the terror didn't end with that one encounter. The rocky ledge near her cabin, she soon discovered, was infested with these creatures.
Oh no!
And in the aftermath of that terrifying battle, she vowed vengeance against the whole tribe of reptiles, killing 4 or 5 a day.
Became a snake hunter.
This entire story just underscores the constant life-threatening dangers that weren't abstract fears, but a daily, visceral reality for women on the frontier.
Absolutely. It illustrates how the emotional landscape was just as fraught with peril as the physical one.
So what does this all mean for us, for you, the listeners, as we consider this historical narrative? It means every mile westward, every day lived on the frontier was a battle not just against the elements or perceived enemies, but an internal one against fear, loneliness, despair. And in this ongoing fight, women were frontline soldiers, facing down not just physical obstacles, but profound emotional and psychological challenges. They weren't just surviving, they were actively conquering, reshaping the very definition of strength and resilience. 2, home in the wilds, fortress and foundation.
That arduous journey was one thing, wasn't it? A test of endurance and courage. But arriving and then actually building a life, establishing a home in the wilds, well, that presented a whole new set of formidable challenges, demanded a different kind of daily heroism.
Yeah, a constant grind. When we picture a frontier home today, we might imagine something rustic, maybe even quaint.
A little romanticized.
But the reality for these early pioneers was far, far more primitive. Log cabins were the norm, of course, roughly hewn, often barely more than glorified shelters. And the furniture, it was often just rough, basic pieces fashioned from whatever was at hand. Blocks or stumps of trees served for chairs and tables,
Crude seating.
providing basic surfaces. Even bedsteads were made by laying rows of saplings across 2 logs. Imagine trying to sleep soundly on that.
Not exactly a memory foam mattress. The axe, as the source notes, was indeed central for men clearing land, felling trees for shelter, providing fuel. But the women's ingenuity in managing daily life with these exceedingly basic provisions was equally, if not more, vital.
Absolutely critical.
They transformed raw materials into necessities, making homespun clothing from scratch, cooking nourishing meals with meager, often unfamiliar supplies, creating a semblance of order and domesticity from absolute chaos. The source speaks of the plainness of living and attire that wasn't just a hardship, but a preparation for an almost necessary antecedent of hardihood, endurance, courage, patience in these women.
It forged them.
It was a crucible, yeah, that forged incredible strength.
And then there was the isolation. My goodness, the profound, almost crushing isolation.
That must have been terrifying in itself.
The sources paint such a stark, vivid picture of these early settlements, describing them as experiencing utter solitude, feeling like mere specks in a vast expanse of wilderness.
Just tiny dots on a huge map.
Every settlement, no matter its size, was surrounded by a dark circle, outside of which lurked starvation, fear, and danger. You were, in essence, on an island, girt around as if with a wall built by hostile forces, human and natural.
Wow.
To simply exist here, let alone to nurture a family and thrive, demanded an almost incomprehensible level of daily physical and mental fortitude. It's hard to truly grasp the relentless, quiet courage required for that daily grind.
And a truly poignant example that encapsulates this sheer fortitude, a mother's unwavering spirit in the face of absolute desolation, is the powerful story of Mrs. Noble.
Oh, this one is incredible.
Her husband died in the depths of a brutal winter, leaving her utterly alone with her small children in a remote cabin. Their only provisions were a scant peck of musty corn and a bushel of potatoes.
Barely anything.
Barely enough to sustain them. Fuel was so scarce, she was forced to huddle with her children in bedclothes on bundles of straw in the loft, desperate to conserve warmth, while the frozen body of her husband lay tragically below.
Unimaginable horror.
Faced with imminent famine and the chilling presence of death, this heroic woman, described as skilled in woodcraft like most pioneer women, took up her husband's gun. She wasn't a hunter by choice, not at all, but by necessity, driven by an instinct far more powerful than fear.
And what she did with that gun is it's beyond belief.
Tell us.
She ventured out into the unforgiving wilderness and, against all odds, killed the monstrous brute, a moose, a massive animal that would feed her starving children and herself for weeks.
A moose by herself.
Yes. She then incredibly skinned it and, piece by piece, bore the heavy parts back to her desolate cabin, likely through deep snow. After feeding her children and herself, finding renewed physical and spiritual strength, she then took up the axe and, despite her immense grief and exhaustion, cut a fresh supply of fuel, fighting the cold that had already claimed her husband.
Just relentless.
And nothing daunted by this terrible, traumatizing experience, she refused to abandon her frontier cabin. With the aid of sympathetic neighbors, she continued to till her farm, enduring 10 more years of solitary struggle until her oldest boy, now a young man, and his brothers could take over.
10 years.
Together, they eventually tilled 200 acres of meadowland, most of it redeemed from the wilderness by the skill, strength, and industry of their noble mother. It's a multi-decade saga of turning profound tragedy into a foundation for the future.
Her story is an almost mythical testament to the unyielding determination driven by a mother's fierce love. It demonstrates how immediate, devastating tragedy could be transformed into this long-term act of building and survival. A foundation not just for her family's future, but for the community.
Yeah.
And it also highlights, interestingly, how often the spring season, with its notorious mud and floods, could be even more trying than winter for these women, often forming impassable barriers to travel, posing direct risks of cabins being submerged. The dangers were just relentless, season after season.
But these women weren't just building hungs. They were defending them, often with astonishing directness and ferocity, transforming their humble cabins into veritable fortresses.
That's a key point.
The sources make it undeniably clear that the life of the pioneer woman was, to a large extent, a military one.
A military life.
They lived in a constant state of eternal vigilance, frequently acting as sentinels of their home fortresses. They were watchful against cunning stratagem as much as against violent assault, passing many a night alone in isolated cabins, averting danger with all a woman's fertility of resource and meeting it with all the courage of a man.
Courage of a man. It's a striking depiction, isn't it? Elevating them to the role of frontline defenders of their domestic spheres.
Absolutely.
Indeed. And what's truly fascinating here is how many historical instances record women not just passively surviving attacks, but actively engaging in combat, turning the tide with their own hands. These weren't simply passive victims waiting to be rescued. They were proactive, often terrifyingly effective defenders. Their actions fundamentally challenge the typical narratives we have of frontier warfare.
Let me give you, and you listeners, some truly striking examples that really bring this point home. There's the story of Mrs. Folsom. In a moment of intense danger, she calmly and deliberately shot a lurking savage through a loophole in her cabin. Imagine the cool precision required for that, knowing the life or death stakes.
Incredible nerve.
Then consider the plight of Mrs. Merrill. Her husband was wounded while Native Americans were relentlessly hewing at their cabin door trying to break in.
Terrifying situation.
Despite the immediate peril, with her husband incapacitated, she defended her home with such fierce resolve and effectiveness that she was later dubbed Long Knife Squaw by the enemy.
Long Knife Squaw, a chilling yet almost respectful recognition of her warrior spirit.
Exactly. And even more graphic, but equally illustrative of the extreme violence they could face, is the account of Mrs. Bozarth.
Oh, this one's brutal.
With an axe, she defended her wounded companion and herself against multiple savages, reportedly cutting one's entrails bare and another's head in twain.
It's hard to hear.
These aren't just stories, they're visceral testimonies to raw survival instinct when pushed to the absolute limit.
Such accounts, though undeniably gruesome in their detail, powerfully illustrate the extreme life or death circumstances these women faced and their extraordinary capacity for self-defense when pushed to the absolute brink. The psychological and physical demands of such encounters were just immense, leaving an indelible mark. They reveal a tenacity that few of us can truly comprehend today.
And finally, consider the remarkable tale of Mrs. Mack.
Right, the fortress cabin.
Yes. Her husband had left their isolated cabin to join a military expedition, trusting implicitly in her vigilance and capability to protect their home and children. Her cabin was purposefully built like a fortress, complete with loopholes for defense and provisions for a siege.
Smart planning.
One night, she spotted a single prowling savage lurking near her cabin. She didn't panic. Instead, she sat by a loophole with a loaded gun for 2 agonizing hours, waiting in silence, until she finally saw him crawling on his hands and knees, trying to approach undetected.
A patience.
She fired, and the savage fell dead. Later, when another Indian appeared, she killed him too, again with that chilling precision.
2 of them.
Realizing that the tribe would inevitably seek vengeance for their fallen comrades, and despite having accidentally dropped her precious powder horn in a stream during her initial, aborted attempt to flee,
Oh no, the powder.
she calmly retrieved it from the cabin. Then, with a tactical mind, she carefully hid her children in a dense copse nearby, ensuring their immediate safety. Only then did she strategically plan her escape to a distant fort, some 30 miles through the unforgiving wilderness, carrying her children through the night.
It's incredible, not just courage in the moment, but strategic thinking under extreme pressure. If we connect this to the bigger picture, these aren't just isolated stories of individual bravery, though they are certainly that. They reveal a fundamental shift in the perceived and actual role of women on the frontier. They transform from what might be perceived as vulnerable victims to active defenders, sentinels, warriors. Their actions, often driven by a desperate need to protect their families, fundamentally shaped the reality of life on the frontier, proving that the strength required for survival knew no gender. It fundamentally alters our historical lens, doesn't it?
It really, really does.
I felt.
3. Courage beyond the cabin. Women in broader conflicts. Beyond the immediate defense of their homes and families, women also contributed immensely to broader conflicts in the very shaping of the nation, especially during pivotal moments like the Revolutionary War.
Be a crucial period.
While men were away fighting, often for years, women filled countless roles on the home front and, astonishingly, sometimes on the battlefield itself, enduring immense hardships, keeping the social fabric from unraveling.
Holding things together.
The sources speak reverently of a countless role of these unnamed heroines, whose stories, though often unrecorded in formal histories, are inscribed in the Book of the Most Just.
It's a beautiful thought. This period of widespread conflict and national formation truly tested the fortitude of every individual, and women consistently rose to the occasion, displaying a courage that ancient Sparta would have applauded.
High praise.
Their patriotism, often untainted by selfish ambition or the pursuit of glory and purged of earthly desires, was this powerful driving force. It was a commitment born of conviction and a deep love for the nascent nation, manifested in action rather than just rhetoric.
And some of these women took direct action, stepping onto the battlefield or into dangerous espionage in ways that are truly astonishing. Here's where the stories they send shivers down your spine.
Like Margaret Corbin.
Exactly. Take Mrs. Margaret Corbin. During the devastating attack on Fort Washington in New York in 1776, her husband, an artilleryman, fell at his post, mortally wounded.
Right in the heat of battle.
Without a moment's hesitation, Mrs. Corbin bravely stepped into his place, took over the cannon, and heroically performed his duties amidst the chaos and gunfire.
Unbelievable courage.
Her actions were so remarkable, so undeniable in their courage, that she was later honored by Congress, a truly rare distinction for a woman of her time.
She deserved it.
Then there's the almost legendary Deborah Sampson.
Ah, yes, the woman soldier.
With an almost unbelievable audacity, she disguised herself as a man to enlist in the Continental Army. She served for an incredible 3 years, endured sword cuts and even bullet wounds,
While keeping her secret.
and remarkably, managed to keep her true sex a secret throughout her service, demonstrating an unflinching boldness and patriotism that is almost unparalleled in military history. Imagine the mental and physical toll of maintaining such a deception while facing the rigors of war.
Deborah Sampson's ability to maintain her disguise through rigorous military life and active combat highlights an extraordinary combination of physical endurance, mental fortitude, and sheer unwavering determination to serve her country. The source reveals that her greatest fear throughout this incredible ordeal wasn't death or injury,
What was it?
but the constant dread of discovery. This fear speaks volumes about the societal constraints she defied and the depth of her commitment to the cause of liberty. It truly challenges our perceptions of who fought and sacrificed during the Revolution.
Absolutely. And this level of courage wasn't just confined to the eastern battlefields. Think about Mrs. Coolidge.
Out west.
Yes, who, under a male pseudonym, undertook the incredibly perilous task of bearing dispatches across the vast, untamed plains of New Mexico. A journey of nearly 1,000 miles, fraught with dangers.
1,000 miles. On horseback, probably.
She even engaged directly in a fight with guerrillas during her mission, a testament to her combative spirit. Her soldierly bearing and quick intelligence in the field led to her promotion to sergeant, a rank almost unheard of for a woman, even one in disguise.
Sergeant, that's amazing.
Or consider Dacey Langston, a young girl from South Carolina who bravely acted as a spy for the Patriots during the war.
Just a girl.
Yes, she traveled miles through treacherous swamps and deep, freezing rivers, risking capture and worse, and famously refused to betray critical information even when a pistol was held to her breast, ultimately saving her community from attack.
What incredible bravery at such a young age.
And we mustn't overlook the iconic act of Miss Elizabeth Zane.
The gunpowder run.
Exactly. During the siege of Fort Henry in 1782, the beleaguered garrison suddenly realized they had run critically low on gunpowder. The powder was stored in a separate cabin outside the fort walls, exposed to enemy fire.
A suicide mission, basically.
Miss Zane, with an act of singular, audacious courage, daringly ran across the battlefield under a hail of enemy fire to retrieve a keg of powder. This feat of bravery supplied the fort and played a direct role in its defense.
Wow.
These women weren't merely waiting for men to save them. They were stepping directly into the fight, into the line of fire, often with astonishing, proactive bravery that changed the course of events.
Beyond direct combat and espionage, pioneer women faced this relentless, often insidious onslaught from nature itself, and a myriad of other adversities that tested their spirits daily.
Yeah, the war wasn't the only battle.
Extreme weather, pervasive diseases with no known cures, encounters with wild animals, and that profound, soul-crushing isolation were not abstract threats, but constant, unwelcome companions.
This raises a truly important question then. How did these women not just survive, but maintain their spirits, their sanity, their fundamental humanity amidst such relentless and multifaceted challenges?
It's the core question, really. The source consistently points to profound faith, unyielding determination, and, perhaps most powerfully, the sheer, unconditional love for their families as immense driving forces. These allowed them to not only endure, but to rise above truly desperate circumstances. These weren't mere coping mechanisms, they were the very fuel for their resilience.
To understand this depth of endurance, let's look at Mrs. Dalton's trials.
Right, northern New York.
She embarked on a journey to the wilds of northern New York, arriving on a cold, relentlessly rainy evening in May. Her first impressions were incredibly gloomy and foreboding. Pouring rain, a black starless sky, and a dense forest dark as Erebus.
Wow, like Greek mythology dark.
Yes, truly emphasizing the profound, oppressive gloom of the wilderness surrounding her. Winter, as you might expect, brought bitter, unimaginable cold and deep snowdrifts, some nearly 20 feet deep, completely blocking all passage and isolating them entirely.
20 feet of snow.
Wrap. When her precious baby fell desperately ill, her husband, in a desperate attempt, rode through the treacherous snow to find a doctor. But tragically, he didn't return.
Oh no, lost in the storm.
Likely. Facing midwinter alone with a sick child. And, to add to the horror, her crude log house suddenly catching fire.
Everything at once.
She performed an incredible act of heroism. She threw a wet blanket into the stove where flames were roaring like a blast furnace, trying to smother the fire from within. Then, with her friend, Mrs. McMurray, she bravely scooped up pails of snow with their bare hands, rushing outside to douse the burning roof.
Bare hands in that cold.
They were literally between two extremes of heat and cold, battling both the encroaching fire and the brutal 18-degree below zero temperatures. And even amidst this chaos, she had the astonishing presence of mind to empty a dresser drawer, line it with blankets, and carefully place her ailing baby inside, covering it well to protect it from the dire, life-threatening cold.
Thinking of the baby even then. Her story is an almost unbelievable testament to a mother's multifaceted resolve in the face of multiple simultaneous crises. The utter isolation of the frontier meant there was often no one else to turn to, no immediate help, forcing them to draw on reserves of strength they didn't even know they possessed.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder of the solitary burdens these women carried.
And the depths of suffering endured by these women could be utterly profound, reaching levels that are almost incomprehensible to us today.
Like Mrs. N.
Yes. The source recounts the devastating experience of Mrs. N, whose family had initially prospered on the Kansas River. Their fortune, however, was brutally reversed. first by a plague among their cattle, then a massive swarm of grasshoppers ravaging their carefully cultivated crops, followed by a crippling drought.
One disaster after another.
Then pestilence, likely devastating illness, arrived. Her husband was the first, succumbing to a delirium, and she, with her own hands, in utter solitude, dug a shallow grave on the bluff overlooking the river and buried him herself.
Buried him herself. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Then, one by one, her cherished children fell ill with the same plague. With heartbreaking helplessness, she watched them waste away and buried each of them herself, too weak and grief-stricken to carry them far. The infant she was still nursing also withered and died, leaving her completely alone.
The entire family. Gone.
Imagine that profound, crushing isolation, burying your entire family alone and suffering herself until, after 2 days and nights of unconsciousness and aimless drifting, she was miraculously found by passing soldiers.
Found by soldiers, just barely survived.
The depths of loss, despair, and solitude she endured are almost beyond human comprehension. Her story is just a stark reminder of the fragile line between survival and utter annihilation on the frontier.
Her tragic account, while thankfully rare in its complete desolation today, encapsulates the potential for utter, soul-crushing loss and isolation that lay constantly at the periphery of pioneer life. It profoundly underscores the immense spiritual, emotional, and physical strength required simply to exist, and perhaps even to want to exist, in such harrowing conditions. It speaks to a fortitude that transcends mere physical hardiness.
Yet even in the face of nature's fury, there were also remarkable moments of quick thinking and immediate decisive action that saved lives.
Right, not just enduring, but reacting.
Take the incredible story of Mrs. B and the bison stampede.
The bison stampede.
While she was engaged in the arduous task of skinning a bison she had just shot, she heard a low, ominous rumbling, a sound that grew rapidly into a thunderous roar. Looking up, her heart must have seized as she saw a herd of what seemed like 10,000 bison plunging madly, uncontrollably down upon her.
10,000 bison, unstoppable.
Her horse, terrified, broke away, leaving her utterly exposed. But her quick thinking, her decisive actions in that moment of absolute panic, ultimately led to her finding her horse, which had been caught by other hunters pursuing the very same herd.
Pure luck, but also quick thinking.
This incredible stroke of luck, combined with her initial presence of mind, saved her from being trampled to death by the thundering mass of animals.
These varied examples of women facing nature's fury, from destructive fires to devastating disease to overwhelming stampedes, underscore the unpredictable and constantly threatening environment in which these women operated. It constantly demanded adaptation, immediate problem-solving, and a level of courage and resilience that few in modern society can truly appreciate or even imagine. It was a daily negotiation with chaos.
Absolutely. 4. The civilizing force. Woman as educator and community builder. While we've extensively discussed the incredible physical and emotional fortitude these women displayed in sheer survival and defense, their impact on the frontier wasn't limited to merely existing, was it?
Not at all. They were profoundly the primary civilizing force on the frontier. The source material asserts quite definitively that woman is the great educator of the frontier, particularly in her irreplaceable role as a mother teaching her children.
That's such a crucial, often overlooked aspect of their contribution.
It really is. In the stark absence of formal schools, which were practically non-existent in the early wilderness, the home quite literally became the schoolhouse.
The first classroom.
The curriculum, rather than being drawn from textbooks, was profoundly practical and immediately relevant, derived directly from nature itself. The sun, the clouds, the winds, the plants, the animals. These were their primary textbooks, teaching observation, adaptation, survival.
Learning from the world around them.
Alongside this raw natural education, the Bible, the Catechism like the Westminster Catechism, a widely influential Protestant theological guide, and the Almanac were the primary written materials. This fostered an unlaced and unfettered education that developed contention and carrying through a useful purpose, imbuing children with diligence and practical skills.
It wasn't just academic lessons in the traditional sense either, was it? Daily life itself taught the great lesson of labor.
Constantly.
Children learned by immediate example and direct precept, participating in the unending cycle of frontier tasks. Gardening the sustenance they would eat, cooking with meager supplies over open fires, washing clothes by hand.
Hard physical work from a young age.
And, crucially, nursing the sick and injured, often their own family members. The source paints this beautiful yet stark picture of a prairie mother teaching her 4 children lessons from the great book of nature, showing them the sun, the clouds, the stars, and how God made them, whispering stories of Jesus.
Oh, wow.
She had but a Bible, a catechism, an almanac, and the Bible is the only reader in her little school. Imagine that. Your entire education beginning with the natural world, infused with scripture and the direct, immediate demands of survival. It's a foundational character-building education.
The value of this informal, experiential education cannot be overstated. It directly prepared children for the harsh realities of frontier life, instilling not just academic knowledge, but essential virtues like diligence, keen observation, resilience, and a deep sense of responsibility. This was the fundamental education that shaped future generations, a unique curriculum forged in the crucible of the wilderness.
Beyond their immediate families, these women were absolutely essential in fostering community and knitting together the very fabric of civilization. The source stresses how women uniquely knit the ties that bind that circle together
Building community.
and gather and hold the material and moral resources which make the household what it is. Their influence, far from being confined to the domestic sphere, extended outwards, shaping the nascent communities.
Their heartfelt kindness and hospitality was not just a pleasant custom, it was a hallmark of frontier life, a vital social glue.
So important out there.
Travelers, often caught in unexpected storms, lost in the vast wilderness, or suffering from illness, would be welcomed into these humble log cabins. They were offered the best of what little the family had, cared for with genuine sincerity if they were sick or injured. This spirit of mutual aid and genuine compassion, in a world defined by isolation and self-reliance, was truly life-sustaining, forging bonds that transcended mere acquaintance.
And some women took on even broader roles, initiating formal institutions that would become cornerstones of community. Take Mrs. Eliot, the wife of the Apostle John Eliot,
Right, working with Native Americans.
who tirelessly worked to Christianize Native American tribes in colonial Massachusetts. Mrs. Eliot was his indispensable partner, a skillful and practical aide, who managed their demanding household and nurtured their 6 children, thereby freeing him for his sacred profession.
Enabling his work.
But her contribution wasn't merely domestic. She also served as a highly competent medical assistant, described as skillful in properly treating those childish ailments that plagued early colonial communities.
Her skill and experience as a doctress led to her being actively sought out by the sick and suffering, particularly among the praying Indians, Native Americans who had converted to Christianity. Her deeds of practical charity, binding aching brows, cooling fevers, offering solace, were profoundly impactful, winning souls to Christ not just through theological words, but through tangible acts of compassion and healing.
Wow.
This highlights the practical application of their moral principles in the direct work of community building and cultural exchange.
Another pioneer woman, Mrs. Lake, is credited with inaugurating one of the very first Sunday schools on the frontier in Ohio, way back in 1787.
Early Sunday school.
She meticulously taught children from the Scriptures and the Westminster Catechism, her simple and kind manner winning the lasting affection of her pupils and establishing a foundation for religious education in that new territory. And then there are the Peterson girls.
Oh, the Rocky Mountain Rescue.
A truly remarkable story of impulses of kindness and pity that transcended self-preservation. When they heard rumors, then confirmed news, of starving men trapped and suffering in the treacherous Rocky Mountains, their father and brother were hesitant to embark on such an incredibly dangerous rescue mission, weighing the cold dictates of prudence against the desperate need. But the girls refused to listen.
They insisted, didn't they?
They absolutely insisted. These young women journeyed into the treacherous, unforgiving Rocky Mountains with their brother and an Indian guide, carrying concentrated and nourishing food specifically prepared for starving individuals.
Angels of Mercy.
They acted as true angels of mercy, nursing and feeding the lightheaded and desperately starving men for an entire week, literally bringing them back from the brink of death and restoring their hope. This act of selfless compassion in the face of extreme danger profoundly illustrates how women extended their inherent care beyond their immediate families, building connections and community in the most remote and perilous settings.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the influence of women was not merely domestic. It was fundamentally formative for the nascent society of the American frontier.
Absolutely foundational.
They were undeniably the cohesive force that allowed these struggling, isolated settlements to ripen and mature into well-ordered, functional communities. Without their multifaceted efforts, their nurturing, their teaching, their hospitality, their moral strength, the social structures of the frontier might very well have disintegrated under the immense pressures.
And this profound influence extended directly to shaping future generations, often producing the very leaders who would guide the young republic.
The hero mothers.
Yes, the source refers to these women with deep admiration as the hero mothers of the republic, highlighting their undeniable impact on prominent figures throughout American history. It asserts that many of the distinguished men of our country, from revered generals to influential statesmen, spent their earliest, most formative years in remote frontier settlements, learning crucial intellectual and moral traits and vital lessons from their mothers' lips.
Like Washington.
Think about George Washington, the revered father of our country. His biographer explicitly states he was born in a secluded farmhouse, and after his father's death was left entirely to the care of his mother, Mary Ball Washington, who proved herself worthy of the trust. She governed her family strictly yet kindly, teaching him essential self-restraint and guiding his naturally high temper with exact principles of equity and justice.
Shaping his character from the start.
Even Andrew Jackson, known for his fierce will and determination, was profoundly shaped by his mother's teachings during the Revolutionary War, her lessons instilling in him a deep sense of patriotism and resilience. These aren't just isolated anecdotes. They are compelling evidence of the direct, profound influence these frontier mothers had on the very character and destiny of the nation's future leaders. They were shaping the republic from their hearths.
The source powerfully argues that this unlaced and unfettered education, rooted in the practicalities of daily life and infused with strong moral precepts, uniquely fostered the manly virtues, quote-unquote, that were essential for leadership, progress, and the very survival of the young nation.
Yeah.
It speaks to the profound notion that the crucible of frontier life, endured and navigated under the unwavering guidance of these remarkable mothers, produced individuals of exceptional character and unparalleled fortitude. Their legacy is etched not just in history books, but in the very spirit of American resilience.
These stories, these deeply moving and, let's face it, often terrifying accounts, they aren't just historical anecdotes or dusty tales from a bygone era.
No, they feel very alive.
They are a powerful, enduring testament to the boundless beneficence and the highest efficiency of the human spirit, especially as it so vividly flourished in the breast of woman on the American frontier. They remind us of what we often term manly virtues: courage, perseverance, ingenuity, unwavering strength, were often embodied most profoundly and fiercely by women. Driven by an immense love for their families, an unshakable faith, and an unyielding will to protect those they cherished and to build a better future, brick by laborious brick, log by painstaking log. What might we learn about our own resilience, our own potential, our own capacity for courage and sacrifice, by truly acknowledging and internalizing the incredible contributions of these often unsung heroines? Let their stories maybe enhance your own understanding of strength and human capability.
The narratives we've explored today reveal that the forces of a woman's moral nature, though maybe immeasurable by scientific means, are profoundly evident in their tangible, transformative results. Their capacity for self-sacrifice, their raw courage in the face of overwhelming odds, their unwavering dedication to family and community all spring from a forceful emotional nature that had the power to transform hardship into hope, desolation into determination. It's a powerful reminder that history, when viewed through the rich, multifaceted lens of women's experiences, becomes infinitely richer, undeniably deeper, and profoundly more inspiring. They certainly challenge us to rethink our assumptions about where true strength and resilience truly reside.
Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast, this deep dive into the remarkable lives of women pioneers. We really hope these insights inspire you, our listeners, to look deeper into the foundations of our history and perhaps into the depths of your own potential, drawing strength from these incredible stories. You can continue your own deep dive into fascinating topics with us next time. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, subscribe, and share the Playing Books podcast with others who appreciate a good story and insightful analysis.